Today, I want to talk about the hardest decision that music producers have to make. It's obviously which microphone to buy, right? No, it's not that. Maybe it's what compression plugin should be on your vocal chain. No, it's not that either. Maybe it's if you should move to Nashville or LA or Stockholm. A huge decision for sure, but it's not that either. It's actually something much deeper than those. So if you're willing to get a little philosophical with me, then let's talk about it. And by the way, my name is Adam. Every week I drop a new video about music production. So if that's something you're into, go ahead and subscribe and let's get into it. This week I was talking with another music producer, Akeo, and we got onto the subject of books that we think other producers should be reading. And my immediate thought was 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Burkeman. Now, this isn't a book about music production, really. It's not a book about the industry. But unfortunately, as we are all mortals, it still applies. Now, you may have connected the dots already, but 4,000 Weeks is roughly about how long someone will live if everything goes according to plan. Now, you may think that a time management book is going to help you finish more mixes or automate more of your processes or fix your schedule to the point where you can become the most productive producer in the galaxy. But it's not. In fact, it does quite the opposite. What it does is it forces you to face reality. The reality of being a human being, a music producer, a mixer, whatever your role is, in a way that no other book has done for me. So real quick, I want to go over 5 of the main takeaways that music producers can get from this book because it might just help you the same way that it helped me. So as producers, there are tons of new tools to help us be more efficient. We can trim time off of our projects until we're doing basically the bare minimum. But if your goal is to be more efficient, it might become a cycle that you didn't anticipate. Burkeman says, I soon discovered that when you get tremendously efficient at answering email, all that happens is you get much more email. Productivity is a trap. Becoming more efficient just makes you more rushed, and trying to clear the decks simply makes them fill up again faster. Now, when I think about a lot of the things that I've done to make things go faster in my career, whether it's outsourcing parts of the process that I don't like or adding a bunch of new tools to speed it up, yes, obviously, there have been times where it works. But there have been other times where managing the new system, the new tool, the new person, well, that becomes a task, or more aptly, a distraction in and of itself. Not to say that efficiency isn't important, because obviously you want to have things to the point where you're not being bogged down by menial tasks. But if you're chasing the dragon of efficiency, there may come a point where you're more focused on building more efficient systems than you are on making great records. Now, there's something about spending your time on a project that truly matters to you, that makes you proud of it, that connects you to the work, and communicating and working with clients, actually having conversations, sitting down, working hard together to build something. Well, that's a big part of what builds a bond between artist and producer, artist and mixer. So embrace some of those more boring menial tasks and see if you can find the joy or the benefit in them. Finitude is the state of having limits or bounds. So finite, it's the opposite of infinite. And one of the overarching themes of this book is that you yourself are finite. You have limits. You will eventually hit a skill ceiling. You will eventually make your biggest and best record, and it might not be triple platinum. You probably won't be Max Martin. You probably aren't Chris Lord-Alge or Aretha Franklin or whoever else you look up to. But the sooner that you can accept that this truth doesn't make you a failure, the quicker you can get back to doing what you're meant to be doing. Whatever thing you can contribute to the world, whatever spark you bring to the table, you need to understand and accept that that's enough. It's important because you'll have a really hard time being happy if your criteria for being happy is to be one of the most revered, beloved figures in the craft. Now, you may think that the delusional belief That you can be anyone or do anything is exactly what it takes to get to the top, but frankly, I'm not sure that that's true. But regardless, there are many more people upset that they'll never be LeBron than there are LeBrons. But there are just as many high school basketball coaches and equipment managers and commentators that are living fulfilled lives. There is a healthy space between I will never be happy if I don't have a number one smash and I should give up, where I'd like to think that most of us occupy in the music business, and we should be embracing it instead of letting the other thing dictate our happiness. If you spend every moment of your life and your career trying to set up for the future, you are going to miss a lot of beautiful moments along the way. If you view childhood as simply training to become an adult, then you're missing out on a lot of joy. And if you view the part of your career that you are in now as just something that will help you prepare for the next part of your career, well, there's some things that'll happen. One, you'll not appreciate the work that you're doing now. And two, you will have a hard time not getting jaded with what you're doing. I think a lot of us have experienced working with a sound person or like an engineer, manager, whoever it is, who feels like they don't need to take what they're doing seriously because they'll be doing something bigger later on. And those people, coincidentally, usually don't seem that happy. Now, I've personally fallen into this thinking about the future trap before. I've talked about the mistake that I made of trying to leave my schedule as wide open as possible when it comes to social stuff. So turning down vacations or not joining recurring social activities, just in case I happen to get booked for a session. But the truth is that was a mistake because probably half the time I could have done both or just asked to book a different day when I'd be in town or free, and it all would have worked out. But obsession over the potential of the future caused me to miss out on the present, something I didn't really realize I was doing until I read the book. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've sat on the beach or by a pool just stressing about the work and deadlines that were waiting for me when I got back, or brought my computer, an interface, and headphones on a vacation so I could do revisions or to get ahead on editing. Or maybe reading a book or listening to a podcast about production in my free time to make sure that it wasn't too free. That I'd somehow lose my edge if I was like too long away from the studio. But the problem with this is obvious to me now. Would my career have been ruined if I just relaxed and told everyone I was going to be gone for a few days? So if you need any changes, either let me know or I'll do them when I get back. Honestly, no. But I thought I needed permission from some unknown music production entity to like actually relax without freaking out about what I was missing. But the truth is that permission is never coming from anyone but yourself. If you're waiting on someone to tell you that you can relax or have kids or get married or move or whatever it is, then you're gonna wait forever. I have a tendency to be a bit of a workaholic sometimes, so this has been kind of hard for me. But the last few trips I went on, I did leave my laptop behind and I turned off my email notifications and just handled it all when I got back. And you know what happened? Nothing. Nobody was mad. The world didn't implode. I didn't get asked to mix the new Pink Floyd album and then have to turn it down because I was away. Now, this right here is the big takeaway for me, but it also presents us with the most important choice that we will have to face in our careers and in our lives. The whole idea of our 4,000 week life, if we're lucky, is that there is simply no way to do everything. So you have to choose what matters to you, like actually matters. Do you want to produce records? Do you want to become an A&R? Do you want to mix and master? Do you want to start a band and tour the world? Do you want to start a record label? Do you want to make remixes? Do you want to make soundtracks? Obviously, there is time to do more than one of these things, but to do them all, well, that's just simply impossible. If your to-do list is 10,000 items long, if you expect yourself to be able to master multiple crafts and excel at them, well, good luck. But the beautiful thing about realizing that you can't do it all is that you can remove the pressure of feeling like you should. Once you accept that you are only around long enough to do a few things really well, you have permission to focus on those and to ditch all the side projects and what ifs and just do what you love. Is it okay to be a music producer who works on records they love, but they also have a messy garage and a few dishes in the sink? Sure, that's life. Is it okay to be a songwriter who is proud of their lyrics, but also has 1,500 unread emails? If catching up on your inbox would stop you from writing a song that you love, then sure. Is it okay to be a really good mixer who doesn't practice guitar as much as they should? Yes, that's all well and good too. Now, I know personally that there are some things like this that I've come to accept. I always said I wanted to get really good at the drums. But honestly, it got to a point where I realized that energy that I was going to put into playing drums was going to take away from being the best producer and songwriter that I could be. So I ditched it, and I actually feel better. Like Burkeman talks a lot about getting rid of FOMO in the book, the fear of missing out, and that being a positive step towards being happier with what you're actually doing where you're at. And frankly, he's right. When I stopped having FOMO about what would happen if I didn't become a great drummer, it gave me a lot less guilt about putting my head down and working on what I really wanted to do, producing. Now, I'm curious if you've got anything like this in your life, anything that you have FOMO over and you feel guilty about not doing, because I know this was a big thing for me to let go of. So Burkeman says in the book that we often make ourselves do all the activities that we hate first, and we put our passions at the bottom of our to-do list. But he says, and I quote, "If a certain activity really matters to you, the only way to be sure it will happen is to do some of it today, no matter how little, and no matter how many other genuinely big to-dos may be begging for your attention." If you're spending all of your energy making sure that you've earned the time to do what you really want to do, you're going to just end up burned out and unfulfilled. If you won't let yourself write songs until your makeup drawer is perfectly organized or until you mow the lawn or any other task that you've been putting off, well, you're just shortchanging yourself. So, what are you going to do with your 4,000 weeks? That's the biggest and the hardest choice that we all have to make. But when we do, everything else can just fade away. Now, if you want to learn more about this concept, I highly suggest that you read 4,000 Weeks, and I really just scratched the surface here. And if you're in the mood for buying books, I also have one of my own that you can grab as well. It's called the Producer Planner, and it actually goes pretty well with 4,000 Weeks because it just boils your to-do list down to the main essentials that will ensure your day was a success without bogging you down with 10,000 other things to check off. Plus, it's got a goal forecasting section in the front, which you can reference every time that you're making your to-do list to make sure that you're prioritizing the right stuff. So I'll go ahead and put links to both of these in the description. So if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe and then watch this video next where I talk even more about music production mindset.